everyone. I'm Shannon Bream, along with Judge Janine Pirro, Harold Ford Jr., Jesse Waters, and Greg Gutfeld. And matching up with me, it is 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. '47 is on the move. Right now, President Trump is on board Air Force One. He's headed to wildfire-ravaged Los Angeles, where Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to show up uninvited. Trump spending his afternoon touring Hurricane Helene damage in Asheville, North Carolina, consoling a community there that really feels forgotten, while making a ton of news, including this moment when he mauled signing an executive order to get rid of FEMA. Here's why.
I'll also be signing an executive order to begin the process of fundamentally reforming and overhauling FEMA, or maybe getting rid of FEMA. I think, frankly, FEMA is not good. FEMA gets here and they don't know the area. They've never been to the area, and they want to give you rules that you've never heard about. They want to bring people that aren't as good as the people you already have. And FEMA's turned out to be a disaster.
And while we await the president's arrival in Los Angeles, Governor Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass were told will be there on the tarmac when the president lands. Now, it's no secret that Newsom and Trump have disagreed over how to battle the wildfires that have ravaged the area. Earlier, the president laying out his expectations for the visit.
I want to see two things in Los Angeles: voter ID, so that the people have a chance to vote, and I want to see the water be released and come down into Los Angeles and throughout the state. Those are the two things. After that, I will be the greatest president that California has ever seen.
And here is what Governor Newsom had to say about the president.
I'm grateful, though, that he took our invitation to heart, and that he will be here tomorrow. It's my understanding. I look forward to being there on the tarmac to thank the president, welcome him, and we're making sure that all the resources he needs for a successful briefing are provided to him.
Okay, so my first question was, when I thought about Newsom and Bass being on the tarmac, did they not see, Judge, his conversation with the leaders at Davos? He was pretty direct about how he felt about how things were going on the stage, international stage, but he's going to be face-to-face with these guys in California.
Oh, yeah, he's going to tell them exactly what he thinks. And, you know, I find it fascinating that Newsom is trying to be the guy in charge. You know, I'm the one who invited him. He took me up on my offer, as if the president needs to be invited anywhere. I mean, this is a clear disaster area that continues to be a disaster area. But, you know, Newsom knows that his future relies on this, and it's riding on these fires, how he handles them. I don't think he's doing so well, and I think the passage of time is only making it worse when they get back to their homes and realize they've got to start from scratch. And, you know, in his first term, President Trump told Newsom that he's got to clean up the forest. And in his first term, President Trump, who's got 50 states to worry about, is prescient enough to say, Newsom, you've got to get the water from Northern California, from the mountains, the rivers, the streams, the snow melt, and not send it out to the Pacific, but send it to Southern California. I mean, you know, this president has been so prescient about the issue of immigration and how much trouble would be in not vetting these people, having an open border. Now America's with him on that. He was prescient about this. And we're talking about, what, 8 years ago? So, you know, Newsom and Bass and all the rest of them can get out there and make like they're doing their job. They're not. But when we saw President Trump in California, he was doing what people want their president to do. They want their president to show up, to talk to ordinary people, to find out what the problem is, how we can fix it, take down the name of the insurance company that isn't giving them the money. How can they be expected to rebuild if they have no money? They can't get their hands on the FEMA money. And the president is doing this all in front of us. He's accountable. He's transparent. He's what we need. And by the way, do you remember Palestine? With all the problems in Palestine? I mean, FEMA's messed that up, too. It should go, and I guarantee you he's going to take it apart.
Well, the people of that train derailment in Ohio were waiting for months and months and months. Every time it sounded like the White House was going to arrange a visit there, President Biden didn't go. Harold, President Trump, even when he wasn't president, has made a name for showing up to some of these places. He did in Georgia as well after Helene, while he was on the campaign trail. And I got to say, hearing from those people today was really heartbreaking, and it was powerful.
There's no doubt. It's good to be with you this afternoon. It is as I tried to share yesterday, President Trump is a different kind of president. There's a lack of conventionality to him. There's a lack of orthodoxy to him that is really good in some ways. And I think part of what he said today, I couldn't agree with more. I don't know if I would get rid of FEMA, but what I interpret him saying is he wants to reform FEMA. When you think about it, the whole organization, FEMA, is organized around responding to something that's gone really bad. So you would think that you would have, and I'm sure they do, but it doesn't seem like they always are prepared. You would have people who know different regions of the country, different terrains in the country, the kinds of things that could afflict different parts of the country, and they could assemble those teams locally to be able to help them better. It was heartbreaking to see months after what happened in North Carolina. I listened to some of those families who are still living day to day, who are still living in conditions and circumstances that you wouldn't think in America we'd be living in. So I hope the president, I know sometimes he gets worked up into politics and can get a little momentum behind him, and he'll say some things. But I think what he said initially about FEMA and reforming is the right thing. Where I differ with him a little bit, Shannon, is the notion of conditionality around helping Americans who happen to be in a state where the president's political party is not in charge. Can you imagine if a Democratic president went to a southern or Midwestern state after a disaster and said, look, I'm going to give you all the things you need if you change your voter laws? I get the president wanting to make recommendations about political changes, but politicians should never put their interests in front of people's interests, even if the politics in that state is to their liking or to their chagrin. We are all Americans, and those people suffering in North Carolina, again, I think it was so great we carried it like we did on this network, because I don't think people fully appreciate that they're still living that way months after all this happened. So I applaud the president in a huge way on the reforms and in the right talk about what he wants to do in making FEMA work better, but let's not condition the relief on politics.
Well, Jesse, how does Newsom play this? I don't know that he has a lot of leverage in this situation, but he says he's going to show up and be there. Is it super awkward, or are these guys sort of frenemies and they work through it today?
Frenemies. At first, someone said it was like he was streaking in the quad, and then he turned around and no one was following him.
Right.
Because the resistance armies disappeared. So now when he was inaugurated, they had the flags lowered for Carter. He raised them, and that was a big symbol that he wanted to play ball. Now, he can show up at the tarmac, and he can either be Chris Christie or Jan Brewer. Remember Brewer in Arizona with the finger point? And then there was Christie, open arms. A lot of people in his party didn't like that. He has to do something. And I disagree with Harold. You have to condition this. It's like car insurance, Harold. If you keep wrecking your vehicle, the insurance company's not just going to keep paying the claims. They're going to make you take a defensive driving course. Just like California has to do. They have to start managing their state better and do all the things Janine said. Now, I wouldn't link it to voter ID.
That's what I meant.
I would link it to getting prepared with your water and your reservoirs and your forest management. But by the way, Harold, aren't they still counting votes in California?
And Pennsylvania.
They're still counting votes.
We've got a race call to make. Right now.
But they do need to reform FEMA, and that's not a partisan issue.
I agree with
you.
The
last four FEMA heads, 2 Dems, 2 Republicans, all say it needs to be overhauled because these states aren't prepared, and then they get bad bailouts because FEMA's not prepared. So they need some sort of disaster deductible to straighten it out.
Greg, I feel the Sharpie. I hear it moving fast and furious over here. I'm getting a little high off of the fumes.
Oh,
Tell us what you've written.
Evil Shannon Bream. Just stepping back, I just feel like, are there any politicians or political parties left? Like, I feel as though Trump has flooded the zone. He's disappeared Democrats from the game board, but also any kind of like never Trumpy Republican. Do they still exist? I don't think there's been any Republican president that's had a week like this. I don't remember it. The party has never been this effective or successful in my lifetime. I mean, maybe over time it happens, but you can't have a better week than this. And a lot of this stuff that he's doing, you know, in the executive orders, but also here, is a layup because the solutions were always there. It's just that the Dems refused to accept them. It was a failure not just of common sense, but also a failure of will. No one is having any issue with what Trump is doing. They just didn't know it wasn't being done. They didn't know what they were missing, including in disasters. This is a contrast between an actual president and a cardboard prop. You know, Trump is aware of what's going on the ground. He actually listens to people. And if you tell him something, he's going to do something about it. For some reason, he's engaged, whether it's in crime, he'll talk to victims. With immigration, he'll talk to border agents. He talks to people in AI. He seems to get a grasp of almost every issue by talking to the people involved. But if you were in a disaster or a catastrophe, if you were a victim and you went on any network and you were pleading, it would never get to Biden. Either he couldn't hear it or he wouldn't do anything about it. And when you watch Trump act, signing all these executive orders and attacking every problem, you don't just see his effectiveness, you realize what was missing. A leader. We had 4 years without a leader, and now we're acting like, wow, this feels pretty good. It's like having you suddenly you're like, oh, now I know what this is like. This is how it works. Pretty good.
Well, and, you know, now hearing from members of Congress, cabinet secretaries, all kinds of people who said they couldn't get to President Biden for these conversations.
Yes.
It does feel abruptly different. Okay.
I don't think that comment was necessary, but okay.
But I wanted to give you a little backup because you needed it.
But you know,
Okay.
I didn't need the backup.
You
Shannon.
did, but I
was
vote
fine.
you needed it. Okay, we'll debate during the commercial. Ahead, the first mass deportation flights are taken off as President Trump's raids target some of the most dangerous illegal immigrants in the country.
Well, we're getting the bad, hard criminals out. These are murderers. These are people that have been as bad as you get, as bad as anybody you've seen. We're taking them out first. Thank you.
President Trump sending a strong and clear message as ICE begins their deportation flights. The White House releasing these striking images showing some of the country's most dangerous criminal migrants boarding a one-way flight out of our country. It's a sharp contrast to the days of Joe Biden's shameful midnight flights that flew illegals in under the cover of darkness. And that's not all. We're also getting brand new video that shows military helicopters and Marines at the southern border helping agents there with security operations. And check out this incredible moment. Deported illegals arriving back in Mexico and warning others with this message.
Hay mucha migra y todos están cayendo. No les recomiendo cruzar porque hay un chingo de migra.
Aha, everyone's getting caught, as well it should be. You know, what's interesting, Harold, is that Governor Healy in Massachusetts, a Democrat, she was going to use every tool in her arsenal to fight back against Trump, but she made an about face. Why do you think that is, and will others follow?
I think she made an about face. I don't know all that she said, but I did see some of those things, and she is now in full support of these things. I think people realize that when you're able to make your streets safer and you are able to reduce the cost of taking care of people whom many in your community don't want in your community, I think that's a positive thing. I think you'll find more and more electeds, and I think your question really is focused on Democrats, and particularly those who may have said that their cities or states would be more sanctuary-like. I think they're going to hear from voters. You've seen even in Chicago where a big core of the voting population there and a lot of big constituency groups there, including a lot of African Americans, are saying we can't afford this. Why is this happening? Now, this group here at the president's second out, these are what Tom Homan said are the worst of the people here. I'm a believer. Our country's has been built over the years on accepting people who want to come and play by the rules and want to come and live the great American dream. But when you come and commit crimes and the kind of heinous crimes and violent crimes people are committing, there's no question the president will continue to enjoy support for this. And as I said yesterday, this is how you keep that coalition together that elected you, Mr. President, back in 2024. It could get a little dicey as things goes on, but people are going to continue to support this.
You know, Shannon, Harold said when the Democrats realize that it's making the streets safer, as if they couldn't figure that out before. You know what I think it is, Shannon? I think it's a recognition that they're going to be charged with obstruction, with interfering, and they don't want to be taken out in cuffs, okay? They cannot stop it. But this Mayor Johnson is already in Chicago, Brandon Johnson's already spent $500 million in Chicago. And he's got a campaign starting to know your rights. He said he wants to protect people. Do you want to protect Americans or illegals?
Well, and that's the question. There are the optics now that Democrats have to contend with as well, because Chicago is one of the places where some federal officials have said, we want to go in the jails and get the bad guys and take them out of here, but we can't go into the jails. So I don't know what the argument is there for protecting bad guys. I'm not sure what that argument is, but that's a hard one for Democrats to make. So if Tom Homan and others are going out there saying, we're going after people convicted of all kinds of things like rape and assault and attempted murder and that kind of stuff, you can't stand there as a Governor Healy or anyone else to say, like, we're going to keep up these efforts. And as you mentioned, this executive order says two things. We can either come after you civilly or criminally if you impede this federal operation, or the president has ordered these agencies to look at cutting off federal funding to these places as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, Greg. Shannon just mentioned, we can go into the jails. Should these illegals who are here and charged with crime, should they be convicted and spend time in the United States, or should they be automatically deported and put on a C-130?
It depends on the crime. If they're, like pedophiles, murderers, we deport them, but we don't. We deport them before we land the plane.
Drop them, you're saying.
Drop them is what I'm saying. It is interesting, though, that foreign pedophiles are treated better than American pedophiles. It's like you have these city leaders like trying to muck up the works so you can't arrest these guys. Why are they different? Would you treat our criminals the same way? They actually captured, and I believe they're deporting some sexual abusers of children. And I'm wondering where AOC is in this. Shouldn't the children that these abusers have been traveling with, how dare you separate them? Shouldn't they be together? Isn't that what she was talking about? Of course, she's not going to say that because the separation policy is designed for that, to keep the guys that are raping kids or trying to sell kids from pretending to being their guardian. Again, this is free money for Trump. He's not creating new laws. He's simply enforcing the existing laws, and everybody's looking at it going, whoa, so we can do this? I had no idea. This is what happens when you get rid of the hoaxes. That when you get rid of the hoaxes, you get rid of these pushers of hoaxes in the media, now you see that there's nothing to fear when you follow the law. Nobody's turning into Hitler. There are no concentration camps. It was all a lie.
Yes, indeed. Now, these illegals, Jesse, have been able to and have literally been exempted from United States laws. And the question now is, do you, and I'm just curious as to what the thinking is, should they spend jail time here or just deport them?
Well, on the one hand, it's expensive to imprison these people.
Right.
But if you deport them and they sneak back in, that's another issue.
Yep.
So I'm with Greg. It depends on what the crime is. If it's a hardcore crime, I say we imprison them here. But if it's just a small misdemeanor, send them back and you take the risk. Remember the talking point about not all migrants are criminals. So what? and look at all of these criminals going home. And all it did, it took a show of force. Just the visual of having these C-130s out hovering over the border, do you know how scared people are now? They used to average thousands of border apprehensions per day. After Trump came in, a couple hundred. No one's even making the trek anymore. It looks to me like Johnson in Chicago wants to get arrested. It looks like he wants to be a martyr, and he wants to now be known for defending criminal illegal aliens. If he does that and the media starts supporting Johnson and makes him this big anti-Trump resistance hero, that is going to send the Democratic Party so far back in time. And the more and more you realize about how long these killers and rapists languished in our cities, 17 arrests, this feisty Haitian illegal the other day.
Feisty.
When you swear in,
He's been here since 2013.
As a president, you swear to protect against enemies foreign and domestic. And he's letting foreign enemies prey on Americans for years. And they obviously knew where he was because on the first week they had his address and picked him up. This just makes Joe Biden look like such a traitor.
Well, yeah, no question. And he's thanking Joe Biden and Barack Obama. Thanks, bro. Thanks, Joe.
You didn't ask me the question. I think you should send them back. These people have already been convicted, and they're still out because our laws need to be changed.
Well, some of them haven't been convicted yet. In other words, we haven't had the ability to try them because they're being protected in the sanctuary. So that's part of the problem.
Right, I think they should be sent back.
Okay, send them back on that C-130 and airdrop them.
And bill them for the flight.
Yeah, right. Up next, the Sore Loser Club. Kamala and Hillary start a support group for losing to President Trump.
Kamala in exile, the former vice president, back in L.A. after getting her post-election loss blues out with some retail therapy. The New York Post caught her and Dougie on a grocery run, but tisk tisk, Kamala, you're violating the central commandment of liberalism. Thou shalt not use plastic bags. Better ditch them fast if you're going to stay in the lefty game. A new report claims Kamala hasn't ruled out a 2028 run and is turning to old Hillary for advice, a real support group for losers. The two have reportedly chatted multiple times since Kamala's defeat on what her next steps should be. What do you think that conversation's like, Greg, between Hillary and Kamala?
I don't know. Does Hillary really have any advice on how to cope with loss? I mean, how's that going for her? Since 2016, she's been a walking pantsuit of misery. People just throw money at her so she goes away. Like, none of the projects she's been working on actually helps. The problem with Kamala is she can't take up drinking because she's already all in. She needs a hobby that doesn't involve a corkscrew. She did start her own company, probably because she had the business cards made that said president. So she needed something. And even if it's a phony company, she could say, I'm in charge. It's called Pioneer 49. Do you know that? It's a combination of her Secret Service code name and the number of times she slept with Willie Brown. But you know what? How do you feel bad for her? She is a wealthy black woman in America who was a historic first. She's gonna land on her feet. She'll get a deal with Netflix. She'll get something at HBO, and then she won't do jack because she doesn't have to.
She could do that, Shannon, or...
Shannon, I'm sorry for that.
She is considering a gubernatorial run.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that would be wise?
Well, you know, there are those within her circle who say she won't do it if she feels like it's a step back in the presidency.
Yeah.
By the way, I thought the 49 in the company maybe meant she was aiming to be the 49th president.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some more stuff that
I
happens
was just
between here and
joking,
there.
Shannon.
But it is 49 is in
Yeah.
there.
No, it's actually about Willie Brown.
Stop. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. I'm trying to stay out of HR. Should we do
Too
that?
late.
But listen, in Washington, Republicans there love the idea that she would run in 28, and they love that she's getting advice from Hillary Clinton. They think that's a wonderful plan for the Democrats moving forward. But remember, there are a lot of angry donors within the party who want to know what happened to their $1 billion. And I don't think that they are ready to just say, okay, let's do that again.
And Janine, if she did run for the presidency again, she might actually have to fight through a primary.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah, she won't be able to drop out before Iowa, I think.
Right.
Look, I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I'm really teed off about her and those plastic bags. She won't let me cook on a gas stove. She won't let me use a plastic straw, but she's going to use a plastic bag. It's just a typical hypocrite, okay? And I hope she runs again. I really do, because she's got nothing to say. She's got nothing to lean on. And unless she gets a lobotomy, she'll end up the same way. She's going to lose. And the third thing is what Shannon talked about, and that is when John Morgan said the woman should be disqualified from running again because she lost $1 billion. Didn't make a damn bit of difference. And finally, I don't think your future is going to be that great, because right now they're trashing Joe Biden. Okay, it's Joe's fault. Joe this, Joe that. It's going to turn around. It's going to be Kamala, because they can't blame Biden forever. She's going to pop her head up, and they're coming after her.
Jesse, it occurred to me, her husband should have used a plastic bag.
Harold Ford Jr.
So I think that I'm not bothered by her talking about running for office again. I think if you've been in political office or public office as long as she has, she was an attorney general, she was a U.S. senator, vice president. If you were not still interested in public service, it would seem odd to me. It would seem weird to me. Now, I don't dispute anything that's been said about the hurdles that she'll have to overcome. I hope she uses the moment as an impetus and a catalyst to understand what it means to be in a grocery store, what it means to pay for groceries, how prices are going up. I even think your point, Judge, about the plastics, maybe she has a different kind of revelation or thinking on this. I don't think you should be permanently penalized in life or politics if you change your mind about
Yeah, but she wanted me to change my way of life.
I only get like a minute here. I'm only saying. I just think it's great that we challenge her on these things, because I think she should have to answer all the questions you ask, even the uncomfortable questions that you ask about why were you this way a year ago or 6 months ago, and if you've changed your mind, tell us why. Even creating the organization, I think, gives her even a greater opportunity to be able to do those things. So I wish her the best as she tries to do it.
Pioneer 49. Do you know what it does?
What does it do?
It's to help her set up her future. That's all it is. There's nothing. We just buy a newspaper or go online, find a job. I don't know.
They're asking for our email addresses.
Yes.
So she could ask for more money.
Yeah.
Are they still asking for money from you, Harold?
Who is they? The people, Democrats? No, I've not gotten an email
Not yet?
since.
Not this week?
It's
Not
been a
this
couple
week?
weeks. It's been
Okay.
a couple weeks.
Just making sure, because
It's been a
she's still
couple
in
weeks.
debt. Up next, AOC can't stand that President Trump is the most popular man, besides Greg, in America.
The Congresswoman known as AOC is anything but A-OK. The outspoken Democrat is blasting her colleagues and other elites for normalizing Trump 2.0. Judge?
What makes this go around with Trump so much more dangerous than the first time around? This time, the norms are becoming him. Like, the norms are embracing him. They are strong cultural signals. Oscar de la Renta, like, dressing all of the women. Like, there's all these cultural symbols. It is a kiss race.
Man.
It is, how can I show how much fealty I have to Donald Trump in order to get my digs?
What?
So I'm coming to you second. Greg, what are your thoughts? I'm curious about this, because I think when you elect a new president, people want to try to figure out ways to work together.
Yeah.
So I don't know what she's actually trying to say. What's your take on it?
I don't know, and it seemed like Bernie Sanders there was really disappointed. I think the psychology is she's feeling the flip, that the Democrats and liberals are no longer the cool place to be anymore, and it's on the other side, which is hard to believe. She wants cultural figures to be scared of being near Trump. And that has always been the tool that they use. It's a very honest admission that they want to keep you from leaving the flock by the threat of ostracizing you. That was the whole genesis of cancel culture. If I see you on Fox, you're dead to me. If you watch Joe Rogan, oh, how dare you? If you liked a tweet by Tucker, we're coming after you. This used to happen to me all the time. Friends of mine liked to tweet by mine. They would hear somebody. That's what created the silent majority. People just wouldn't tell you that they liked somebody, and then you found out, they shellacked you in the election. And what you're saying is true. This is the opposite of the American spirit. It's ordering you not to communicate with people who are different than you. That is the woke creed. It's not the American creed. You have to engage in the opposition. But they're scared that if you do, you might like what you hear.
Shannon, how do you, you're in Washington. You deal with leaders in the Republican and Democratic Party. Do you sense that what she's saying is broadly shared?
Well, what it seems like with her is the more he's normalized and accepted by people across both sides of the aisle, the more it takes away her voice. Because when she's out there, kind of, Greg, as you were saying, she's the progressive wing of the party, and they had a lot of power at the table under the Biden administration. If Trump is now normalized, it really takes away from her ability to use a name or description of him that immediately makes him toxic and everybody wants to run away from him. Remember, during the campaign, we were told numerous times he was the end of democracy, that he was a dictator, he was a tyrant. And yet when it came time to do the electoral votes, Democrats didn't object. They did their thing. They did their duty. They got it done. And then you see him at President Carter's funeral. President Obama's joking with him and laughing with him. It just completely disarms the other side's argument that he is an existential threat. And I think for her, it feels like she's losing power when that happens.
Prime Time, what are your thoughts on this?
I think Greg summed it up perfectly. It's like middle school Mean Girls, when you all agree that you're not going to talk to this one guy.
Yeah.
And then a little while later in the semester, some of your friends start talking to him. No, you're not allowed to talk to him. And then all of them start talking to them. And it's like, oh my God, what's going on? The whole resistance to Trump was like a social boycott.
Yeah.
It wasn't really based on anything else. And you see it only works if every Democrat in every single industry is perfectly compliant with the boycott.
Yeah.
And if one slips, it all falls apart. That's why there's no resistance anymore. It doesn't work. It wasn't a political party, it was a political army. And if one wing of the army isn't participating, they lose. And that's why you don't even hear anything from Democrats now.
I like that hand gesture.
Judge, your thoughts on this? Similar to the table, you have different thoughts about this?
It's similar to the table, but I still get to answer.
Of course you do. No,
Okay, thank you, Harold.
I'm going to give you your time. You're going to give me my time.
Oh, all right. Look, she's concerned that Trump is being more normalized. Look, I said it earlier. He was right about immigration. He was right about the water problem in California. He was right that shutting down American energy was going to create inflation and all kinds of problems for us. And I'm not sure that Trump is the one who's being normalized. I think America and the left is now being normalized to Donald Trump. The man was right all along. And now America is saying, okay, that's right. That's where we're standing.
Look, I agree with everybody around the table. I think you can like people and be friends with people whom you disagree with. I think you can show people respect and decorum who you will counter and have differences with politically. This notion that we somehow or another shouldn't embrace somebody that's different than us, who's the president, I don't think it serves anybody's interest, certainly not the Democratic Party.
Shut up, Harold.
Yeah, that was so...
My God. And Greg is my friend. Fentanyl Friday is up next.
Friday, first question. I like this question from Pearl. Have you ever knocked on a neighbor's door to borrow something? She gives examples, but those are lame. Shannon?
You know, this kind of works in reverse at our house. We're the only one with a generator on our street. So when there's a big snowstorm or trees down or whatever, people come to our house and I love it. They need, mostly what they want is to charge their phones.
Oh, interesting.
But we offer a hot shower and meal also if necessary.
Fantastic. I do that too, and I have cameras in the bathroom in case they steal.
No cameras at our house.
I have cameras everywhere. I'm actually filming us right now. Jesse?
I hit a tree in my car as a teenager at midnight, and it was a snowstorm. And I wandered up to a neighbor's house and knocked on the door. They thought I was like a home invasion. And I said, no, I just crashed my car. Please call my dad.
Oh.
Not 911.
No, your dad.
That's a great
Yeah,
story.
that is
not borrowing something.
I
Judge?
borrowed their phone.
Oh.
This was pre-cell phone, Greg. I'm older than I look.
I've never borrowed anything.
From your neighbors?
No, why would I? I have a store. I can do this. I have a gas station. Why would I borrow anything?
It's no way to get to know your neighbors. Harold,
I
I'm
don't
sure.
wanna know
I knocked on my neighbor's door not long ago to see if I could hide my kids' bikes for a reason that I didn't want them to know about something. So they weren't home. So
Interesting. Every now and then I'll knock on a neighbor's door to borrow a bath towel.
You do not.
Yeah, and then I wrap it around me and I leave. You didn't see that one coming, did you? Okay, Frenchie, remember her?
Yeah.
What's the most disgusting thing you've seen on a flight? Judge, come on.
Some pig was clipping his fingernails and he took off his socks and I was like ready to vomit on him.
Wow, just say his name, Hemmer.
Oh, Bill Hems.
You fly private, don't you,
people
Harold?
who fall
all the time.
asleep on the morning flight who clearly may not have used mouthwash and they're snoring and you're just like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, and their mouth is open.
Mouth wide open. It's awful.
That's when you put
Bless their heart. Bless their heart. Bless their heart.
Jesse, what's the worst thing you've seen on a flight?
There was this guy who had an emotional support rooster on the flight.
No.
And it started relieving itself in the aisle. Yeah.
The rooster or the guy?
Yeah.
I got a real thing with hair. I feel like hair is super disgusting.
Yeah.
And there was this woman sitting in front with like really long hair and she put it over the back of the chair.
Oh, that's
so then it was
asking
on the
for it.
person behind them and I was like, oh no.
That's how you dry your hands. You know,
Or you put your gum.
when I was flying last week, obviously private, the sushi that they had served, it wasn't as cold as I would like, and that was disgusting. You know, and firing the flight attendant might have been a bit harsh, but in making her cry, who cares?
Oh,
Do I have time for another, or should I just go?
Yes, let's do
One
it.
more.
What is one thing that people should do in public? That people do in public that should be illegal? Illegal. Jesse.
When they talk really loud on the phone.
That's cool. It's like from reality shows.
Yes.
You know, like The Apprentice, somebody's in the back seat talking into
Yeah.
the I hate that.
Yep.
I don't know.
Anything else?
That definitely.
We all agree with Jesse. We all agree with Jesse.
Riding bikes on sidewalks drives me crazy.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Or coming on a plane with your pajamas on. I don't want to sit next to you in your pajamas.
Yeah.
Too comfy.
And I agree with Harold about women drivers. They should be illegal.
Oh, really? We do better than you do.
All right.
I didn't say that. I disagree with
Let's go. I said go away.
That's instinctive.
It is time for one more thing. We begin with Greg.
All right, tonight we got a great show. Dagan McDowell is here, the comedian Lou Perez, Tippin Tyrus. Hey, let's do this. Greg, I can't believe I'm talking about this news. Man, I thought I was going to make it through this life without having kids. Turned out I was wrong. Anyway, I'm getting a lot of gifts.
Yeah.
A lot of gifts. But a lot of them are onesies, and I can wear them. This is from the great Andrea Canning, who is the host of Dateline, one of my favorite shows. She's pretty hot, by the way. But this is a little Dateline. And then my buddy Lou Perez, who's on tonight, knows I'm a fan of Mike Patton and Faith No More, and he got me a Faith No More onesie for my little baby. She's gonna love my musical taste.
Oh, yeah.
Right? She's gonna love it. She'll
Poor
be
kid, you're
listening to
gonna
the
scare the
Cramps
heck
before
out of
she's
her.
3.
And sharing clothes. Okay, next, Jesse.
Valentine's Day, right around the corner. Don't screw this up, gentlemen. We have a new line of goods for Jesse Waters Primetime Valentine Day collection.
Valentine Day?
Valentine Day. So it's basically a Jesse Waters Primetime pillow. We call it My Pillow. And we have a teddy bear. We have a blanket, which you can snuggle under and watch Jesse Waters Primetime. Go to foxnews.shop to purchase. Tonight, Jesse Waters Primetime, Justine Bateman, Jordan Peterson, Mark Levin, and we might get the Hegseth vote in our hour, so watch.
This
You
is
are
not a
correct,
pretty
sir.
blanket.
I'm going to take the coffee mug, though.
Beauty in the eye of the beholder.
Can I say what this is good for?
No, I
I'm
think
afraid.
we should keep that to
This is something
ourselves.
that you put over your window, like if you live in you can't afford drapes, you put this over the
could do that.
window.
Judge, would you do that?
No.
Put it over your
You're
head.
up, Judge.
Go ahead. Oh, it's my turn. Okay. It's time for, put that down. Okay, this one might take the cake for the world's most clueless criminal. Not only was this robber in Russia drunk, but he went to a robbery with a toy gun. You see him, he's reaching for vodka, and he's falling over the counter. He slurs his words, he wobbles back and forth, and he got stuck laying on the counter. Police eventually tracked him to his home. Now, I don't know why they had to track him to his home. The guy couldn't have made it out of there.
He's doing parkour.
Okay,
Right,
that's
on the
pretty
counter.
dumb.
All right, Harold.
Kind of criminal you want to go with. This is the incredible moment the U.S. Coast Guard rescued 4 boaters whose sailing vessel had sunk moments earlier. The 4 men aboard the Mariposa were forced to flee on a life raft just north of the Dominican Republic. The rescue was aided by the fishermen on a nearby boat named Bonanza, as well as a container ship not far from there. Luckily, none of these men suffered any injuries and were taken back to Jacksonville. The Coast Guard says the rescue was expedited thanks to their search and rescue satellite-aided tracking system. Just when we think these people, we shouldn't be funding all, so we should fund even more of it to make sure more people's lives can be saved. God bless all of them.
Fund who?
I love that.
The Coast Guard, all these rescue organizations.
I agree.
Now, for all of you dog lovers out there, a Colorado Uber driver has discovered the secret to getting 5 stars. It's this guy. Kevin Furman has his rescue pup named Bowie with him. He often wears a bow tie. He's turned into a local celebrity as passengers love to pet and take pics with him. That is a definite 5-star in my book right there. Also 5-star. Fox News Sunday this weekend. We've got Senator Tom Cotton, who is now the chair of the Senate Intel Committee. And we've also got Democrat Senator Dick Blumenthal with us. We've got much to discuss, and we're going to find out if they get these people across the line on the confirmations. They're stuck with us in Washington this weekend. That makes it
All
good
right,
for our show.
get your Jesse Waters Primetime pillow,
That's
everybody.
it for us.
Right
Have a great
here.
night.
Snuggle up.